Good evening, everyone. It's the host, Danny Man. I'm here to tell you all a great happy Easter to you all, and I'm here to tell you my fourth story of Pirates of the Caribbean, The Final Voyage. Are y'all ready? Sit back and relax, and let's get started. Chapter 4, Tortuga Tragedy. It is nightfall on the island Tortuga, and Red was the first one to arrive on the island. She looked around cautiously as she knew that the people on the island were full of crazy people and so many drunkards. And just as she suspected, there were so many people doing so many crazy things, drinking, laughing, playing music, and doing crazy stunts and stuff like that. And then she came into a pub. And when she came inside, the place is exactly the same as it is outside. She went into a bar with a guy cleaning the grass, and then she asked the guy, "I had to look for Mr. Joshua Gibbs. Do you know where I can find him?" And when the man turned around, Red was surprised that the man she was talking to is Joshua Gibbs. Then Gibbs replied, "Who's asking?" Then Red asked, "Gibbs, it's me. Red, don't you remember?" As Gibbs looked closer, he saw in her eyes that it is Red. Laughing in excitement, he hugged Red, and she hugged him back, and then he said, "Jack and Red Sparrow, it's been the longest time I had ever seen you. The last time I seen you, you were a wee little girl." "Aye," Red replied, "it was a very long time." Then Gibbs called the rest of his crew members, the rest of his friends, Pintail, Baguetti, Scrum, Murtaugh, Malloy, Marty, Crumble, Pike, and Boy, and introduced them to Red and introduced Red into them. Red greeted them, and they greeted her, and they treated her as one of their own. And then Gibbs asked, "Would you like to have a drink?" But Red said no thank you, that she is here on personal business. Gibbs was surprised, and then he said, "What type of personal business?" And then Red said, "A type of personal business that has to involve me and Jack Sparrow." Gibbs was surprised to hear that, and then he started to see that Red was a little worried. He asked her what's going on. As Red told Gibbs everything, he was shocked and surprised, and then Gibbs said, "If you want to go find Jack, there's a cabin not that far away from here. Just go straight, and then you'll find it right in front of you. You can't miss it." Red thanked Gibbs, gave her a kiss, said goodbye to him and the rest of the crew, and then she said that she promised that she'll come back and she'll have a drink. Smiling, Gibbs grabbed the cup that he was drinking and then nodded and then drank. As Red went outside, she bumped into two men. The men apologized to her for bumping into her, and then she apologized back. And then she looked closer at the two men, and then she said that, "You guys are not pirates. May I ask where you're from?" The two men looked at each other, then they said, "It's complicated." And then Red just said, "Okay, it's none of my business to interfere. Sorry for asking, and I'm sorry for bumping into you." As Red went away, the two men looked at each other, shrugged their shoulders, and went inside. As they went in, they saw Gibbs, and then Gibbs said, "Will and Henry Turner, it's been a long time since the last time I saw you guys. And the last time I saw you, Will Turner, you planned a mutiny on the Black Pearl." Will then replied, "Yes, I want to apologize for that. It's been a very long time." Then Gibbs' stern face went away, then he said, "Yes, it's been a very long time, my friend." They both shook hands, and Gibbs shook Henry's hands, and then he invited them to drink. As they sat down and drank with the other pirates, Gibbs asked her what is their personal business here. Will told Gibbs everything that was going on, including that Davy Jones has returned, and that he has kidnapped Elizabeth and Karina. Gibbs was shocked and stunned as he was when he heard the discussion with Red. And then Will said, "That is why we came here to you guys, so you can help us go rescue them. But the only problem is that we don't know where he's heading or what is he up to." Gibbs stood silent for a moment. Then an idea came to his mind. There is someone who can help us. Someone who could tell us where he's heading and what his plan is up to. Will asked who the stranger is. And then he said, "Her name is Shansa. She came into the pub some time ago. I asked her if she's a sea witch. She replied that she is. I told her that she's welcome to come back anytime she wants to. And then she said to me, "You're welcome into my cave whenever you want." And then Will said that we must go find her. Gibbs agreed, and they all went out to the pub to go look for Shansa. But what they didn't realize is that they were being watched by a skinny figure with a straw-like hat and glowing red eyes. Many miles away, Red has arrived at the cabin, and the cabin is not what she expected. It's a nice-looking cabin, close to the edge, and a giant windmill close to the side. But when she went inside, she was flabbergasted, as the place was full of trash all over the place. Broken bottles of rum, papers thrown all over the place, and a fire burning close by. Then she started to realize that she's not alone. She then heard a voice that she thought she would never hear again. "If you're looking for a place to drink, there's a pub down the hill." Red turned around, and then, to her surprise, she saw the figure of a man leaning on a post, and then she got closer, and then she asked, "Jack, is that you?" And then the man got out of the shadows, and then walked towards her into the light, and it is what she was hoping. Jack Spell, but with a little bit of gray around his beard and his hair. And then he asked, "Do I know you?" Red spluttered, and then she said, "Of course you know me. It's me, Red." Jack took a closer look, and then he saw. "Why, Red, last time I saw you, you and I went on an epic quest together." But then Red cut him off, and then she said, "No, the last time we saw each other is that you promised me that we could go away together, but then you left me behind." Jack gave a confused look, and then he said, "That's not how I remember it." And then Red said, "Jack, I need to talk to you. This is a personal matter, something that involves you and me that only we can stop." Jack just looked at her, and then he said, "Well, are you going to tell me?" Red sat down on the chair, and then Jack sat down close beside her. She grabbed the Book of Fortune out of her satchel, and then she said, "Do you know what this is?" Jack Sparrow grabbed the book, and then he said, "The Book of Fortune. Yeah, I know this book. I was the one who was holding this book to my captain long ago." Red was surprised, and then she asked her, "How do you know about this book?" And then Jack told her the story. Long ago, before he became captain of the Black Pearl, he, his father, and his captain, and some few pirate crew members went on to some deserted island looking for gold and other treasures. They didn't find any gold or treasures. They came upon a temple. The captain read the ancient text, probably supposed to be the language of the gods. And as he finished reading it, a statue was coming to life right in front of their eyes. The statue was a frightening figure, and then it talked and said, "Free me. Continue the spell, and you will set me free." But we were all afraid. And then we all ran for our lives. Then the statue just stopped talking, and then we went back into stone-like form. And then the whole island started to burst into lava. We continued running for our lives, and then my captain did came upon one treasure that he thought he would never find, a compass. He put it in his shirt, and as we continued running, we went back to the ship, sailed away, and as we all looked back, the island was destroyed. We called it the Island of the Dead. And also the one my captain was surprised for what I found was the Book of Fortune. But the captain warned me that to never read this book in case something bad truly happens. And we did. That is when we decided to lock it up and never read it or use it ever again. Red was surprised by the story. And then she said, "That's a very interesting story." Then Jack said, "It was a good story. That why is she here and why is she seeking his help?" And she told him that there is a new curse spreading across the 7 seas. Jack was surprised, and then he said, "Why does everything have to be involved with a curse?" But Red was not laughing, and then she told Jack that father is gone. Jack was surprised, and then he said, "What do you mean that he's gone?" Red explained to Jack that with his dying breath, he told me to take the Book of Fortune, find Jack Sparrow, and undo this new curse that is spreading across the seas. I asked him what new curse. Then he told me, "I felt it. I felt it like it's running through my veins, like a sprout of water hitting your face." Then he took me by the hand, and then he said, "Do not fail me, and tell Jack to make me proud." And then he died in my arms. and I had to bury him and destroy our home. I set sail on the dinghy to go look for you, Jack. But then I got captured by the British soldiers, and I was all alone on Port Royal for a very long time. I scavenged around looking for food, places to hide, and for shelter until I was caught again. Then I realized the new governor of the island was having the Book of Fortune in his possession. And then I had to figure a plan how to take the book away from him. And luckily, I did. I managed to break free, take the book, and set sail to the island here on Tortuga. And here I am, right now, talking to you. Jack was going to say something, but then Red interrupted him, and then he said, I read about what this new curse is. But before she could say anything else, they heard a very loud creaking. They looked through the window and saw nothing, and then they stood silent for a moment, trying to figure out what is going on. Many miles away, on the other side of the island, Will, Henry, Gibbs, and the rest of the crew came down a ladder and into the cave close to the shore and walked inside with torches and came upon Shansa's hideout. Shansa was sitting down on a skeleton-like chair and welcomed the men inside her home. And then Will was going to introduce himself, but the Shansa cut him off and she said, I know who you are, William Turner. And this must be your son, Henry. You're here to ask me for what reason that Davy Jones has returned, that why he kidnapped your wife and your fiancé, and for what he's up to. Will and Henry were both stunned, and then Will said yes. And then Gibbs cut in and then he said, yes, that is the whole reason why we're here, but can you please hurry up? I have a business to run. Shansa went into a cauldron, grabbed a few pouches of potions, poured it inside the cauldron, and then there was smoke running up all over the place. And then the men started to see some images from their past. Then Marty asked, what is this? Then Shansa replied and said, this is your past. In the time when you all fought Barbossa and his skeleton crew, then Davy Jones, Ward Beckett and Davy Jones on the Maelstrom, Blackbeard with the Fountain of Youth, and Salazar and his crew of the dead. But for what I see next is the most disturbing. Pinto and Getty were a little nervous. And then Henry asked, what is it? Taking a deep breath, Shansa said, after you have broke the trident of Poseidon, not only you have destroyed every curse, but you have created a new one that involves an ancient god, Genesha, that fell down from the heavens billions and billions of years ago for being foolishly cruel and untrustworthy. They banished her on the island of the dead, where they give her one wish to be restored. And once that wish is restored, Genesha will return back home and will be forgiven for her many misdeeds. Then Shansa gasped in horror, and then Gibbs asked, what is it? What do you see now? Shansa then said, Davy Jones, he's going to use the wish to become a god and to bring back Calypso. But in order to do that, he's going to sacrifice your wife and your fiancé. Both Will and Henry look at each other in horror, and then Will said, tell us more. Shansa looked again, and then she gasped harshly and shakingly, and then she said, once they reunite, they will become an unstoppable force. They will use their new godlike abilities to spread chaos, destruction, and death around the whole world. Then Shansa gasped again, and then she said, Davy Jones is not the only one looking for the god of Genesha. There are two who are also seeking the Temple of Fortune. The Temple of Fortune is where Genesha is hidden on the island of the dead. There is one. Her name is Jacqueline Red Spell. She and Jack Spell are going to look for the temple to destroy the god and make a wish that will destroy every new curse once and for all. Both Will and Henry looked closely, then Henry said, "Hey, that's the one we bumped into at the pub." But Will was stunned and then said, "Jack has a sister?" I'm I'm shocked. And then Gibbs laughed and then he said, "There's a lot of things of Jack that you do not know. What else do you see?" Then Shansa gasped again, and then she said, "The other one, Angelica Teach, daughter of Blackbeard, is also searching for the Temple of Fortune. She is seeking the temple where she will use the wish to destroy Jack once and for all." And then Shansa's eyes opened wide, and then she said, "She's here. Angelica is here. You must get out of this cave before—" But she was cut off as there was a gunshot. And then, as the men looked in horror, Shansa was shot on her head, fell down face forward into her cauldron, and was dead. As the men looked around, they saw a zombie. The same zombie that was spying on them earlier. Will threw his torch at the zombie, and the zombie was yelling in pain, and they all ran for their lives. As they climbed out of the ladder, they looked at the horizon and saw that the island of Tortuga is under attack. They saw a ship not far away that is firing cannons, and they saw more zombies attacking, destroying, and killing anything in their path. Then they heard some shouts. They looked behind them, and then they saw a horde of zombies coming towards them. They all grabbed their swords and their pistols and fought. Back at the cabin, Jack and Red looked again at the window, and then they saw the town is under attack. And then, as they were going to make up their minds of what they were going to do, a brutish giant zombie busted inside. He was carrying 2 axes and had a huge heavy scar across its face. Both Jack and Red yelled in horror, grabbed their swords and tried to fight the zombie, but the zombie was too big and too strong. The zombie knocked Red off balance and nearly killed her. And then Jack reacted quickly, grabbed a ball of one burning piece of wood and threw at the zombie. The zombie was yelling in pain and then ran back outside. Jack was confused, and then he said, "What was that all about?" Red started to realize that there was something else that she forgot to tell Jack. And then she said, there is something else that I forgot to tell you." Jack looked at her and then he said, "Well, what is it?" Red stood silent for a moment and then she said, "Angelica is here." Jack gave a confused look and then he said, "So Angelica escaped the island. I wonder if she used the same way to escape the island as I did." Red moaned in disgust, and then she grabbed a spyglass and looked around and saw that the zombies were killing people and destroying everything in their path. And then she continued saying to Jack, "She's here to kill you, Jack. Not only to kill you, but also to restore her father, Blackbeard, after what you did to him and to her." Then Jack said, "All I did was saving her life. That's all I did. Her father wasn't going to do the same. He was going to let her die." And then Red grabbed Jack's hand and they both ran off, and then she said, "Right now is not the time. Do you have a ship?" Jack took his hand off of Red's and then he said, "Of course I have a ship. It's right down there." As Red looked down towards the cliff, the Black Pearl was in her sights, and the ship was as good shape as it ever was before. Red gasped in amazement, and then she said, "You still have the Black Pearl? After all these years?" Then Jack said, "Of course I do. She's the love of my life." Red gave a confused look to Jack, and then she said, "Yeah. Come on, Jack, let's go, before Angelica finds you here." Back on the other side of the island, Will, Henry, Gibbs, and the rest of the crew were still fighting off the zombies and killed off a bunch of them. And then Will started to smell some smoke. He looked down towards the cliff, and then he saw that the cave was bursting into flames. Then he started to get angry that he let Shansa die, only because of what they were looking for. Then Gibbs said to Will, "It wasn't your fault, Will. None of this is your fault. She did what she had to." And then Will started to realize that he was right, and then he grabbed Gibbs' shoulders, and then he said, "So will you help us? Help us to save Karina and Elizabeth and stop Davy Jones once and for all?" And then Gibbs grabbed Will's shoulder, and then he said, "Of course I will." Then Marty, Pintel, Rigetti, Scrum, Murdoch, Morway, agreed to come help as well. And then Henry said, "We still need a ship." And then Gibbs said, "Don't worry, we have a ship. The Black Pearl is on the other side of the island." Will grabbed Gibbs by the shoulder, and then he said, "What makes you think that Jack is going to help us?" Gibbs was stunned and surprised for Will, and then he said, "Because he owns the ship. He's the captain." But Will continued saying that he does not trust Jack's spell. And then Gibbs was starting to get a little angry, and then he was cut off as they heard more shouts of zombies, but a whole ton more. And before they realized what was going to happen next, they were all surrounded. And then a woman was coming towards them. She blew the smoke out of her pistol, and then she said, "Such a shame. I could have used dear Shansa a lot more. But after for what I was hearing, she was no longer used to me. But you men, especially you, Will Turner, you might be very useful to me. Give it to them, boys." And before any of the men knew that what was going on, a zombie threw a powder of smoke, and all the men were coughing and wheezing, and then they were all knocked out and fell on the ground hard. Will was the last one to fall down as he was trying to head towards Angelica with his sword, and then Angelica chuckled, bent down to the sleepy Will, and then she said, "You poor little man, all this, all because you want to save your wife and your son's fiancée. Don't worry, I will end your misery once we head into that island. Also, for Jack's misery for what he has done to me. Skinner, take the men to the ship, and the rest of you come with me. There's one man left that I must kill." Back at the cabin, Red and Jack had finally made it down to the Black Pearl after walking down so many steps. Then Jack took the steering wheel, then Red was taking care of the ropes, and they were finally sailing away off the island. And then they started to notice that the cannons would stop firing. And then Jack got his spyglass and looked, and then he saw a rowboat with Gibbs and the others heading towards the ship. Jack gave a horrifying look, and then he said he could capture Gibbs and the others. Red grabbed the spyglass and looked and saw that Jack is telling the truth. "What can we do?" Thinking for a moment, Jack said, "I guess the only thing we must do now is go find the Temple of Fortune, find Genesha, ask for the one wish, and stop this madness once and for all." Screaming in delight, Red grabbed Jack, and then she said, "Oh, Jack, this is wonderful. Just think of it. You and me, Red and Jack Sparrow, on a desperate quest for one last time to save the world for a new curse one last time." Then Jack chuckled awkwardly, and then he said, "Yes, I believe you could call it that." Back at the cabin, Angelica was looking overhead as she saw that the Black Pearl was sailing away. And then she noticed her spyglass that Jack and Red were on it. Growling in frustration, she broke her spyglass, and then she said, "Burn the cabin. We're going to go after Jack and the woman, and we're going to find the temple and destroy him once and for all." Without being telling twice, Skinner and the few zombies lit up the cabin and followed Angelica. And that is the end of Chapter 4, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Final Voyage. What do y'all think of it so far? Do you like it? Please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe for more notifications of videos, shorts, and posts to the upcoming feature. Hope you have a good, splendid day. God bless, and have a good, happy Easter.